The following program, The Lightning Strike, is sponsored by Muhammad Fahim, and to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of NewsWeb Radio Company or its management.
Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Muhammad Fahim, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Muhammad Fahim.
Chicago, and good morning to the entire world. I'm Muhammad Fahim with the Lightning Strike coming to you every Sunday morning, 9 to 10 on WCPT, Chicago's and the country's largest progressive talk radio station. And believe me, folks, we need progressive talk and progressive thoughts now in this country. We are going nuts over here with some of the nuts that are running the White House now. And it was so embarrassing to see this idiot Elon Musk standing in front of our yellow-orange blob sitting over there at the Resolute desk with an irresolute look on his face, and Elon Musk running a press conference in the White House. This is the height of it. Okay. So we are going to be talking a lot about all of those things, but today we want to start off, especially because this is Black History Month, we want to focus on some of the great achievers in the African American community. And speaking of great achievers, there was no one who was greater than Muhammad Ali. And with us in the studios today, I am very pleased to invite and talk to Maryum Ali, the great Muhammad Ali's daughter. Maryum, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me here today.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It is such a pleasure. I've always wanted to know somebody in the Ali family. And a couple of months back, we met Jacob.
Yes.
And we were so thrilled that, he's Ali's grandson. And now we got you sitting over here. So, right off the bat, Maria.
Yes.
You are here to promote a new venture that you are launching.
Yes.
And folks, you remember the famous lines from Ali? Like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Yeah. That has been so much ingrained in American psyche for so long now. So Maryum is coming up with a play called The Float. So Maryum, Float. When, where, why?
Well, Float is a solo performance play, which is basically a one-woman show. I have a background in entertainment, but I actually left entertainment because I wasn't that conducive to a Muslim woman. I did stand-up comedy for about 15 years and done acting, and, it became a hobby because it was just a lot of things in the business that were, a little unethical. But I've always loved the performing arts, and for 20 years I've been wanting to do this piece.
How come you didn't become a boxer, though?
I had no interest. I was an athlete. I grew up in Chicago, in the south suburbs of Chicago. I played sports year-round, volleyball, basketball, field events and track. Loved sports, but I never wanted to box. That's my sister Layla took that up. Yeah.
Question, Layla, did she own a restaurant in Orland Park?
That was Rashida.
Rashida, okay.
And her husband, Bob Walsh.
Gotcha.
So did anyone try to beat you up when you were a kid?
It's so funny you say that because I talk about that in the play, actually.
Okay.
Growing up, a Muslim girl and then a woman. We have very specific stories that aren't told.
Okay.
And I've loved performing arts, especially live theater, for about 30 years.
Okay.
And I really love the genre of solo performance. It's not easy, but I've studied it for so long and I'm fascinated because with those kind of plays, someone says, I don't see this story often and I'm going to write it myself. Okay. So as a Muslim woman and girl and a Black Muslim woman, characters like me were just basically non-existent.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, and when you were talking earlier about the government, what's going on in this world, when you look at racism and Islamophobia and discrimination, the power of those things happen from false stories about groups of people.
Absolutely. False narratives.
Yeah, false narrative. Yeah.
And when Dr. Sabil Ahmed of Gain Peace and I, we do a series of workshops now that we started called Cultural Competency for especially law enforcement officials. Okay. One of the things that we speak about is not knowing. It's not so much Islamophobia, it's xenophobia also. You don't know something, you don't know, and then you draw your own conclusions, right?
Yes.
So, but I'm more interested in you as Muhammad Ali's daughter.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not forget that part of it. Yeah. So, not the boxing side of it, the human, the daddy side of Muhammad Ali. Can you talk a little bit about that?
And I don't do this on purpose, but the play is about that as well. So my father's been one of the most documented figures in history.
I would think so, yeah.
And him as a father, he has 9 children. He was a good dad, despite traveling so much, being so busy, having a discipline to be an elite athlete. He gave us that quality time that we needed. Didn't see him a lot. We saw him, but when we did see him, it was so powerful in terms of the kind of parenting and engagement he gave us. So another reasons why I wrote it the way I did, and it's called Float, is him as a father. How did he raise me and help me navigate life, dealing with racism and Islamophobia and different things of that nature? How did he handle that? And how did he teach me? So he's in it as a dad. The play is not about him, but his presence is probably 35-40% on how he was as a father. So I've been answering that question for a long time, since I was 15, but people could actually see it in story form.
So if anyone came up when you were 15 and they wanted to take you out, did they have the guts to talk to your dad about it?
You know what? As a Muslim girl, I didn't date.
Most people don't understand that.
Yeah, I didn't date. Yeah.
Well, I never dated.
I didn't want to, actually, because he would, he kind of,
intimidating.
He prepped me. He would say, you're not an adult. And I was a daddy's girl, and I listened to him. I actually was a daughter that listened to him. So he scared me about guys. I was nervous.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said, you get too involved too quick. This can happen, this can happen, this can happen. And I believed every word he said.
How did you deal with the racism? Did he talk about that during that time? Because as he was coming up, there was a lot of racism.
Yes.
Did he tell you all to prepare yourselves? Or
well, what's interesting? We dealt with it in the suburbs of Chicago in elementary school.
Wow.
So they tried to bully me, but I was coming from the Nation of Islam school, which we were in at the time, transitioning over to True Islam. But we were taught to love who we were young.
Wow.
So when I went into an elementary school of predominantly Caucasian youth, who felt they were better than me, they would try to bully me, and I would have to lay hands on them.
Okay, we understand.
And, so then I would talk to my dad on the phone and tell them about the attempted bullying, and he was like, "Can you just go tell the teacher first and try not to hurt anybody?" You know what I'm saying? So, but it was really, elementary school was a little hell for me out here. It was. People don't realize Illinois was like that in the 80s.
So, folks, in the studio with us today is Maryum Ali, the great Muhammad Ali's daughter, and she's actually doing a play, a solo play, which is so interesting. I'm going to be there. Okay, it's April 5th at Kennedy King College,
April
1
5th,
o'clock.
Saturday, 1 o'clock. And this is a multimedia show. It's just not me standing up talking. A lot of people haven't seen this genre before.
Yes.
But the way I'm doing it, it's dramatic lighting. It's projected photos. It's sound effects. My dad went to 9/11 9 days after that attack to support the rescue workers. People don't know that. So he's standing in the rain looking at the ruins of the Twin Towers, and I talked to him a few days before, and we were all very nervous, and I told him, "Daddy, I'm not going to take daytime flights anymore, because I figure a hijacker wouldn't want to crash into an empty building at night."
Yeah.
So we were having these conversations, but in that scene, you hear the rain falling as he's looking at the Twin Towers still smoldering in spots. It's very dramatic. sound effects, background music. So like when you watch a film and a scene comes in that's sad and you hear the music, well, I have that in the play.
Oh.
So I take you through.
Sheila, we have to be there.
Yeah.
How do you get tickets for
Must
that?
see.
The best way, because the link is a little long, the best way to get tickets, go to my website, MaryumAli.com, MaryumAli.com.
Okay.
You'll see the play, and you could click on a button right below the page, and it'll take you right
Studio,
to
I'm not sharing the
right to the ticket site.
Is there a little comedy in that? Because Muhammad was a funny guy. You would laugh at some of the things he would say.
And like I said, I want to let people.
Anyone whose name is Muhammad is a funny guy.
Yeah, and I do want
You talk about comedy, I don't even have to say anything. People just look at me and laugh.
Yeah. And I do want to reiterate, it's a story of my life, but my father's in it as a father. It's not about him.
Right.
Yeah, but as a stand-up of 15 years, I do have funny moments, and there's some funny conversations and things that happen, but it's not a comedy, it's a drama.
Right.
But there's some things of, it's not all,
Is there a little of that silver tongue in there, that poetry that he would just take you out with?
Well, I do spoken word in the play, so most acts have spoken word, but there is a part in there, and I don't want to give things away, where a reporter kind of is rude to him, and he responds back through poetry.
Wow.
Yeah. But there's poetry all through the play.
But
again, I don't want people to think I'm coming to see a play on Ali, because I want people to be disappointed.
Yes.
But he's in it as a father. Yeah.
Well, that's the most important part, that most people don't know that side of him, and it's not because a lot of focus has been on the professional, the boxer.
Right.
So, folks, here's the thing. It's going to be April 5th at Kennedy King College. That is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And what we will do also is, if you go to our website, which is tlschicago.com for the Lightning Strike Chicago, or to TLS Radio also will take you to the same website. Why don't we do this? We'll go ahead and put up a blurb of your play on our website with a link to your website.
Blurb. Yeah. Oh, yeah, a little blurb. Yeah, no problem. That'd be great.
That's his way of saying poetry. That's his poetry.
I just also want to, I have one sponsor, the Zakat Foundation. I just am grateful for them. And the Kennedy King College has CICA, the Center for Equity for the Creative Arts. Oh. And they actually brought me in to do it. And they are, they bring great productions there, and they, empower students to be able to learn and be educated through the creative arts. So a big shout out to them.
And Kennedy King College also does a radio show.
Yes.
Because I remember almost 20 years back, me and a good friend of mine, Paul Cotillo,
right,
we had started a local radio and television show called The Employment Hour. And we were invited as guests on the Kennedy King College radio show.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you guys so much, and we're going to have a good time. It's one night only.
Oh, goodness.
So, yeah.
Just about sold out, too. One night.
We're half full, and it's not even April yet, so the tickets are going very fast, and it's a fast-moving production. It's very fast-moving. So
something for the whole family.
Yeah, yeah. I would say 14 and over.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nothing vulgar in there, but I do grab a couple points in history and parallel them with life today, but again, like I said, I go to plays that don't see Black Muslim women characters.
Right.
Someone once said, if you don't see it, write it.
I love that.
And that's what this is about. But again, ultimately, I want people, entertained, but also educated, because the goal is for people to have more empathy and understanding and create unity. Because the lack of unity is a lack of understanding of other people.
That is something so important, folks. And this is what we're trying to also do through the radio on the Lightning Strike also. Give hope to people.
Exactly.
It's not all, dark and gloomy out there. There is a lot of hope out there, folks. The 4 most important words in the English language that I want to leave you with is, this too shall pass. What is happening in our country, in our capital, is a travesty of democracy. It's not democracy at all. And on that note, we are going to take a short break in a couple of seconds. But Maryum, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is a pleasure. We got April 5th, we'll keep on talking almost every week about the fish. How about
Thank
that?
you so much.
Okay, we're taking a quick break, folks. We'll be right back on WCPT. Meanwhile, our Facebook conversation continues. So, again, if you...
Lightning strikes, my friend. Kitchen in a bottle.
Have no fear with regard to renewable energy. If you own property, either residential or commercial, in Northern Illinois, you most likely qualify for massive federal, state, and utility incentives. Grab a piece of paper and a pen and write down this number, 630-785-0031. You can have a no-cost, no-obligation conversation with a ComEd green light expert that can help you figure out which incentives you qualify for. Again, call 630-785-0031 for a free, no-cost, no-obligation assessment. 630-785-0031.
Looking for personalized, family-friendly dental care? Visit Distinctive Family Dental in Joliet, where Dr. Sunil Karup and his expert team bring 25 years of experience and state-of-the-art technology to your smile. Unlike corporate-owned practices, we focused on tailored care for every patient, ensuring healthy teeth and perfect oral hygiene. Discover why families trust us for all their dental needs. Call 815-439-1270 or visit distinctivefamilydental.com today. Distinctive Family Dental, 2405 Essington Road, Suite D, Joliet, Illinois, 815-439-1270. Your smile deserves the best.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Muhammad Fahim.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Lightning Strike, and I am your host, Muhammad Fahim. We are here live on Sunday mornings from 9 to 10 on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. And we are live worldwide on heartlandsignal.com. So heartlandsignal.com. The Facebook video thing that is going on over here is the Facebook side of it. But you can understand that this is a radio show, so it's more, the focus is more on the audio part, not the video part. And the Facebook is just something we do for the heck of it, for the fun of it. Good morning, Sheila. Welcome to the Lightning Strike.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay. So you want to go ahead and please introduce our guest?
Yes, our guest today is Mr. Aubrey Barnes. He's nationally known as Mr. Obbs. He hails from the city of Rockford, Illinois, and his journey through the realm of poetry, writing, and education has left an indelible mark on both the national and international communities. I want to welcome our special guest today, Mr. Barnes. Welcome to the Lightning Strike.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is great. Thank you.
There are so many things that we could talk about. I want to first talk about, how did you begin to talk about the war, the Lions, the Young Lions Roar? How did you come up with that name for your organization?
Yeah, so as a community organizer of the arts, I had a community project called Roaring Rhetoric, where I would work with the community and like giving them a space to share their poetry, more so like adults and stuff like that. But I got my degree in education and stuff like that as well. So when I left being a junior high at-risk teacher, I was brainstorming how I could all the more blend poetry and education together under my own kind of thing. So like the fact that I had already this project, Roaring Rhetoric, and kind of foresaw it as something that like will be available for students later when they grew up to want to pursue poetry. They did. Young Lions Roar just kind of came naturally, kind of like showing students how to like access their proverbial roar, you know, as young people. So that's how it kind of came to be as a name.
And it's interesting because you use this art form in the mental health wellness.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that, because things are going crazy in Washington, all around the world. How do you use this art in the mental health wellness journey?
Yeah, so I always tell my students, like, I've been doing poetry as a career for the last 10 years, but I always tell my students that if I didn't do the art as a profession, I would still do it because of what it taught about myself when it comes to my self-awareness and how to like handle things that I can't really control, and just being able to like live in it and kind of still not allowed to affect my emotions. And also, like, I was an at-risk teacher, so like social emotional learning was a big bulk of what I did, you know, so it was just natural to kind of like take poetry and allow it to be used as a tool for students who may not be into the performance part, and even if they are, it still benefits them to use poetry, have conversations with self, you know, ask yourself, okay, why do you have this feeling of depression? Why do you have this feeling of anxiety? Like, and what can you do about it, you know? And in turn, when you're able to have those conversations with yourself, you can all the more have those conversations in clarity with others, you know, because you sought how to like navigate your emotions in a healthy way. And I feel like that's, and like you said, with the present moment, like there's a lot of things that like, there's things that we can have control over, you know, which I think you should always fight that good fight. But then there's also things that we can't control. And like with that, you got to learn how to sit with that in a way where it's not affecting your everyday life and your sense of peace. So
growing up now, who was your favorite poet?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I tell people all the time, like I was introduced to poetry in kind of like an interesting way through the art of rap. Okay. You know, I wasn't a big reader in high school. I'm a big reader now. I have like a library of like 170 books, but yeah, I'm a big reader.
Kindle books or just regular?
Oh, regular books. I can't do Kindle. I have to feel pages and stuff. I have to.
The millennials are like that, right? The millennials and Gen X.
If you don't turn the page, it doesn't look.
It doesn't. Yeah, you got to take notes in it. You got to scribble in it and stuff. You know, so I like that part, folding the pages to save pages.
Things like that.
Yeah, so like with that, since I wasn't a big reader, like I accessed poetry through music. The first quote unquote poet I heard that inspired me to write was Nas. You know, really good storyteller, really like introspective guy. You know, I would go home. This was before like Walkmans and iPods and all that, where I would record like 30.
That's his days.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd record like 30-second snippets and just like listen to that 30 seconds on the way to school.
Yeah,
but like
mine was Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, yep. Yeah. No, he was a great writer.
The Raven and those.
Yeah.
That still resonates with me.
Oh, yeah. No, he's a timeless writer. Definitely. Yeah, he's somebody's work. I have a book of his poetry at home, actually. Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you handle writer's block? Because we have a poet here, too. He just writes just easy. You know, the pen of a ready writer. But how do you handle
I got like
writer's block?
One book already out. Second one, I'm working on it.
Nice.
It's been
that's
like,
awesome.
for the past 40 years, I've been writing poetry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's
it comes to you, right? I mean, we don't even have to think about it. It's kind of like in Muslim theology, we call it as ilham. That means it is a revelation from God.
Wow.
And it just comes to you.
Yes. I'm glad. Thank you for sharing that, actually, because I resonate with that a lot. Because for me, like, when it comes to writer's block to me is just, it comes when you're trying to force something that's not coming natural. So for me, like, whenever I'm writing, like, I have to be intuitive when I write, like, because I don't want to put too much of, like, I think it should be this way and that way. Because you got to balance it, I think, art-wise. You got to balance, like, letting them come to you. And then also when you have those ideas, ground those ideas. But for me, with writer's block, when my students get writer's block, I just tell them, like, well, you just don't have anything to say right now. Like, go, that's okay. Just go take a walk, talk to your parents, hang out with friends, and then maybe you'll get something, you know?
I want to ask you a favor. We're coming up with this concept, and we're still developing it right now, where it's Tinder, but for music, okay?
Oh.
And what we're doing is Muhammad's already wrote a poem.
He's got a lot of poems.
Yeah, he wrote a poem, and we're going to pass it out to people who can write music but couldn't write lyrics to save their lives.
Yeah.
And we're going to match them up and have like 5 or 6 different examples, whatever genre they want to use, and then we'll have a contest every week. So if you'd like to submit one of your pieces of poetry, I'll make that one of the features for when we get this operation going.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to. Yeah, I'd definitely love to.
And how do you work with young people, keeping them in this trend? Because there's so many different niches out there of poetry. You hear people with music, there's snapping, there's so much going on. How do you keep young people engaged in this art? Because it's different now. You know?
It is. You know, one of my mentors, Christoph Jenkins, he runs an organization called Poet Life University. But he always reminds me that, like, when it comes to kids, like, you got to enter into their world. Like, you know, I may have things that, like, okay, we want to talk about haikus today. I want to talk about rhyme, alliteration, but, like, they might not be into that. So for me, it's, like, more so, like, me entering to their world, you know, asking them, what music are y'all listening to? What artists are y'all listening to? And even if it's artists that don't resonate with me, like, finding a way to creatively bring that to the forefront of conversation. Like, again, like, I'm an old soul, so I listen to like a lot of older music, but like my students, if they like Rod Wave, I'm like, okay, I don't know who that is, but we'll look up some lyrics and talk about his art, you know.
Now, how do you get a hold of the Young Lions Roar for our audience out there that wants to get in contact to go to a poetry slam or poetry jam? Either way, that they say, how do you get in contact with your organization?
Yeah, so we have a website, www.younglionsroar.
Young Lions Roar.
Yep, Young Lions Roar. Yep. So on that website, we should have a place where people can like check out what we do when it comes to events. We work with a lot of organizations, and we're pretty much freelance with how we work with like different organizations, so they can find out what we do and reach out to us through there.
Hey, yesterday was yesterday or day before Valentine's Day, right?
Yes, Valentine's Day. Yeah.
So a thought came to me about love. And this was a poem that I wrote a couple of days back, Sheila.
Eternal love. Wow.
I want you to read it.
Okay. Eternal love. The heart may race, then fade away. The mind may change with night and day. Passions bloom and then they wane like fleeting drops of summer rain. But love that dwells within the soul outlives the flesh, remains whole. Beyond the stars, beyond all time, it sings in whispers, pure and divine. No death can part, no fate can deny, for soul-bound love will never die. Happy Valentine's Day, Paz.
Wow.
Right? It's not bad.
That was powerful.
He's a heavy hitter. He's a heavy hitter.
And we are a little bit past our 9:30 break, but the thought is based on, there's a famous Muslim poet called Rumi.
Yes, familiar.
So Rumi's approach to love is so divine. It's more about love for the divine than the flesh love that we have, the human love that we come to.
Yeah.
And Rumi's thoughts were going through my mind as to that eternal love is the love of the soul.
Yeah.
I like that.
And that is when this thing popped up, and you know.
I didn't know he was that heavy. I didn't know he was that heavy. He was a heavy hitter.
Okay.
Wow.
So 9:30, folks. We are going to take a short break, and again, Sheila, thank you very much for bringing in great guests to the studios every time. And on the other side of the break, we are going to be coming in with Breaking the Echo Chamber with Maryum Ali in the studio with us. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, this is the Lightning Strike, and we have got a great show lined up today. So let's cycle back out, and Maria, if you can just come on into the frame, and we'll continue the conversation.
Are you tired of hearing the same old talking points? Ready to dig deeper into the headlines that shape our nation? Join us on Breaking the Echo Chamber, a fresh, fearless segment on the Lightning Strike radio show. Every Sunday at 9:30 a.m., Maryum Ali takes you beyond the noise and beyond the divides. She'll break down the nation's biggest legislative stories, unpacking the truth behind the spin and exploring perspectives that matter to you. Tune in to the Lightning Strike on WCPT 820 AM and be part of the conversation that challenges the status quo. Don't miss Breaking the Echo Chamber, where the echo stops and the dialogue begins.
Okay, folks, back in the studios, and joining us is Maryum Ali with Breaking the Echo Chamber. Maria, thank you so much again, and so much to break in the echo chambers. Now, what is echoing in our country that you would like to put some more emphasis and focus on?
Well, good morning. First of all, I want to kind of connect the dots a little bit really quickly as we break this echo chamber. One is that our amazing guest, Maryum Ali, the daughter of Muhammad Ali, because of the inspiration of her father, I had written a legislation to make Muhammad Ali a commemorative holiday in Illinois. I don't know if everybody knows that.
Wow.
With an organization called Muslim Civic Coalition. The reason why was to remind children and adults what a truth speaker looks like, and that the nation considered him the nation's champion. So telling the truth is an American value that's celebrated. And so just connect the dots there. And then now we are speaking about how people oppose policies or support policies and kind of the pressure they feel. You know, I think the pressure they feel in speaking out, like what is the reason why so much tension and friction when there are issues at odds? But what we're seeing right now is that it's not just people opposing each other, it's silencing.
Wow.
Silencing. And so when we celebrated Muhammad Ali for speaking up and then celebrated him as an America's champ to speak the truth, and now we're creating a culture of silencing, that's very problematic. So I want to connect the dots there. We talked last time about USAID. And I want to break this down a little bit more, because right now, still within the nation, we're talking about the breakdown of whether this is a process issue or a substantive issue. So again and again, you see people talking about how fast these federal employees are being removed from their positions, and just breaking down of federal agencies. But we're also being told all of the waste of money. Okay? So again, we have to think about what's compelling and what's making people extremely angry and supportive of this fast pace. It's like, something's got to get done, something's got to get done. And I think last time we spoke about USAID and how so many people need USAID, and how this is a form of dehumanization where it doesn't matter if thousands of people around the world are not getting the resources that they need. But we cannot ignore waste. Yes. Okay? We also cannot ignore budget items that make no sense. So we have to have those discussions. As a nation, we can have those discussions of line item discussions of like, does this really make sense that we spent all of this money? It's coming through a process that seems so aggressive and assertive, absolutely. And a lot of people feel like it's not properly placed. But is this a process issue or a substantive issue?
My main concern is that we have unelected, unappointed by the people, young people coming in. These are coders. These people don't have any policy experience. They have no idea about the long-term implications of their actions. And for them to have access to all our, information that is supposed to be private, and with Congress having no say, and a person like Elon Musk standing in the White House on top of the President of the United States, and the President of the United States sitting there like a little mouse who's been whipped, what the heck is happening in the country?
So the visual you're describing is extremely powerful. It's an extremely powerful visual. Now let's see. You saw it that way. A lot of people could see like this billionaire is standing in the Oval Office, answering questions, talking about government efficiency, never been elected.
Yep.
For people who feel like, God, we need someone who's a real executor, they're like, thank God we see this disruption. See these two different opposing views. So that brings me back to what I heard this morning from Democrats. And what is the response? How do you counter that compelling vision that something's finally getting done? Are the Democrats going to talk about process versus substance, own some of the substance issues, right? Or are they going to just focus on the fact that this is aggressive and this is assertive? We need to be able to talk about the substantive issues that they're putting a spotlight on and say this is a process issue. Okay, we understand there's waste, but there's a process issue that we need to address.
But the problem is there is no process to this supposed analysis.
Right.
If you look at what they're saying and how the numbers change, the numbers it's $1 billion, it's 200 billion, it's 2 trillion. There is nothing behind the rhetoric. You can't say that in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they've been able to go through $6 trillion of expenditures and say, oh, we found this, we found that. When the reporting actually happens, to do an audit takes time, takes focus, takes people who know what to look for. Nothing that I have heard has been backed up by a single relevant fact, not a single piece of evidence that it's what it really is. This, we talked a little bit last week about storytelling versus propaganda. Yeah. This is propaganda. When there isn't anything behind, well, we know there's fraud, we know this, so we're going to stop everything.
Yeah.
That's not, there is no process.
So, John,
that is authoritarian.
I agree. So, John, what was compelling to me is when I was watching that interview, and for example, the reporter had said, you had said there were $50 million of condoms given to Gaza.
Yeah.
And it was actually a town, Gaza, in
Mozambique.
In Mozambique. And Elon Musk's response was, look, we're going to make mistakes. And as soon as we make mistakes, we will correct them.
How will we know?
So here's a
No accountability.
But here's the difference. There's a corporation where you make a mistake and you make an unwise decision, and then you tell your employees and your staff, you know what, we're going to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
And then there's a government. And you can't run it the same way, because once you make a mistake and error, you are impacting the mindset of a nation. So the chances are very high that the impact will be much, much higher. I want to talk about J.D. Vance's speech in Europe.
Yes.
Okay, before we go there, I just want to quickly tell our audience. This is such an important topic, folks. We are not going to take another commercial break today. So we are just going to continue the conversation. This is really, really important for our country. Continue, Maria.
Yeah. So J.D. Vance's speech in Europe. Now, a lot of the criticism or concern is that he is kind of highlighting and giving validation to ADF, which is a far right group in Germany. And so this was a speech in Germany, and the response from the Republicans is that no, let's not stroke it like that. He's actually talking about policies that are unfair and freedom of speech and silencing people. So is this a game of who gets silenced and who doesn't get silenced? Because from what I understand, there was also an executive order just signed to deport international students who are speaking about what they see as a genocide in Gaza. So we have the vice president speaking about silencing in Europe, but we have other people that are being deported from our country for what they speak about. So, let's talk about that.
And their propaganda
Double
is
standard.
based on, we can say whatever we want. That's freedom of speech. We can attack anybody with our words however we want, but everybody else is the enemy within, which he used those exact same phrases that were used during the campaign to talk about liberal voices in this country, not just foreign people who are here studying or doing, but me and you and other people who have liberal ideals that look to fairness and equity. They're just propagating this movement of let's establish a global authoritarian, overlay, and then we'll just divide up the spoils. So, the rhetoric and the propaganda, because I'll keep using that word, because none of this has been. For me, I think there's a definition of storytelling, right? Again, we talked about this, which is seeking some underlying truth and bringing that above the veil. Propaganda is based in some small kernel of truth. Yeah, we spent $1 billion on X. Now let's just make up the whole story around it to fulfill our propaganda, agenda, to fill people's heads with this idea that all government is corrupt. Government can't get anything done. We don't need this. Well, they don't need it because they're the rich, wealthy, and powerful.
Right.
The people, the farmers in Kentucky, the farmers in Illinois, right? There's a system where these people are starting to feel that by cutting away all of these programs just ad hoc, with no process, no idea whether they're going to come back, kills their business model, kills their planning that everybody's doing.
So do you think,
people on the
you speak about rural America and you speak about farmers, and let's talk about kind of the conservative right. Does that image, conservative right that have very valid concerns about budget and bigger government that I can understand, does that image of Elon Musk sitting there answering questions, is that something that makes conservatives feel like that's what we imagine government to be, that's what we imagine the Oval Office question to be? I don't know if it serves that conservative base that Trump really ran on, that image.
I mean, I have trouble understanding the mindset where you look at a president who's convicted of
34 felonies
of fraud, of business.
Let's not forget
fraud.
the number, John.
And that's just 34 examples. There's many more in his train wreck that is, that he's left behind him in every business dealing he's done. People said, "Oh, we trust him. He's a showman. He just is that voice ahead." Elon Musk has billions of dollars in government contracts. We just saw them buy a document that in December said they were buying $400 million
23rd, that document had the words
armored
Teslas in there, and that was taken out after the government changed. So the word Tesla is gone from the document. $400 million contract.
So that's like an open air manipulation of information that they're like, yeah, nobody's going to look back to December because we're able to just flood the zone with this concept. So I get that, they want to have a conversation, they being, this authoritarian government that I think is in power right now, they want to just have a conversation about fraud. They just want to repeat that over and over again. But that's not the whole of government. Any human interaction is going to have a percentage of somebody trying to walk around the outsides of the rules.
Yeah.
It does not mean that is the 99%.
So are you saying, John, the storytelling / propaganda that makes people support what's happening is the word fraud? Is fraud the big word there?
Fraud, waste, and abuse.
So
you can
how long?
Always play those cards.
So if it's moving fast, and it's fraud, waste, and abuse, how long is that going to be the theme of the next 4 years?
I think, that's all we're going to get. But we're never going to get receipts. We're never going to get anything real, especially out of this, because what the business model that Silicon Valley has adopted is move fast and break things. What that means is look at the Uber model, right? We had a regulated transportation system in taxi cabs that, yes, had its issues, right? It was expensive for medallions, and that was an open market kind of system. They just wanted to come in and break it. They promised. I was in city council when we were negotiating this. They promised it was going to be cheap. We're going to bring black people. We're going to give opportunity. We're going to give service in communities that have been underserved. As soon as it's passed, in every single city, all of those promises go away. The rates go up. So on net, if you're trying to commute at 9 o'clock to your job at 9 o'clock in the morning, you're paying twice as much as you would have for a cab. At 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe it costs you next to nothing. But the net goal is for them just to make money, because they are breaking a system that had some coherence, and you could make adjustments to create fairness. We just weren't doing it.
But you're saying you can't run federal government like a tech startup.
But that's what they're trying to do.
And you can't run federal government with 19-year-old kids straight out of college who have no background except for coding, and they came in with the concept that they're not going to be paid anything. They're not going to be, a paid government kind of salary kind of thing. They recently submitted, after 2 or 3 weeks, they submitted almost $15 million in expenses.
Yeah. Because it's a grift. It's all just we have access to the dollars.
That's the problem, folks, and no one is questioning it. And I know
is it no one is questioning it, or we're not asking the right questions? I mean, this is what we're talking about: substance versus process.
Even questioning it. That question has never come up. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries now is going out a little bit and talking about things, but I put up a message on my Facebook page the other day. Why are not any of the Illinois Congress people coming out and talking about it? One guy immediately responded, said, "Oh, no, they're talking about it." I said, "Okay, please send me any video or audio clips of any of our Illinois Congress people standing up and showing their spine." I've been waiting for 3 days.
So I'll be honest with you. What I'm seeing it go down as a let's keep quiet till we have a plan for this offense that's been leashed on us. I think that's what's happened.
But that is the stupidest thing that you can
I think that's the
think of from the
strategy.
Democratic Party, right?
I think that's what it is. Don't say anything yet. Let's get our house in order. Let's get our house in order. But our house, the house in order means when are you going to wait? When is that time going to come where we're going to see two opposing substantive discussions?
Well, I think,
but Mohammed, this is what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
They have to start this offense on and not play defense. They have to start offense by first addressing the issues that are being used as valuable, compelling language. So say, yes, there's fraud. Yes, there's misuse. Yes, there's waste. In fact, these are the legislations we've been trying to put in to be able to fix it. But this is a process issue. We don't have an issue with substance. We have an issue with process.
I agree with
That's
you.
true.
Let's start the discussion there, and then give yourself time to figure out a better process.
But when you have a congressman from Illinois who has got more in his campaign fund than both the state senators combined, obviously there is something that he's trying to hide, and he's not going to be opening up his mouth. I'm talking about Raja Krishnamurti, okay? Let's be upfront with it. He has like $17 million in his campaign fund. Mm-hmm. Both Dick Durbin and Senator Duckworth combined have less than $10 million, okay? So these are FEC figures that I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So, but obviously, our elected representatives, I'm sorry, John, these guys need to be held accountable, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm naming names. Okay, go ahead, do what you want,
right?
Right?
Accountability. There's a system where accountability, how he's raising that money and why.
Right.
He's going to run for Durbin's seat if Durbin, right? So there's a strategy to building up resources. If you're a sitting senator and you have $5 million,
he has been building those resources up since 2019 when I looked at his finances.
Because it takes time to do that, and you have to be prepared. To say that somebody has money means they're corrupt is what's the evidence of that? It's not. It can't come
John,
from, because that's the same thing they're doing.
I do agree with John.
That's the problem.
I do agree.
My counter to that always is, if you don't have anything to hide, speak up. Represent the people that you're elected to represent.
Every dollar of that is coming from. Versus Elon Musk, I don't know how he's made his money, but the reporting is most of his money is made from China. What happened to Trump's rhetoric that China?
Speaking of,
wait, we got to stay on this because it's important to say what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to say if you have money, you're evil?
No.
There's maybe a correlation there based on certain people's actions. But yes, just because they're bad actors doesn't mean everybody in that category is the same. What are the accountability measures? In terms of raising money for political reasons, you do reporting. When you don't do that, we just saw a senator from New Jersey go to prison for not reporting accurately. So there are systems of accountability that if you listen to Fox News or Newsmax, they're just, it's hand over fist and no evidence, except the evidence is there of how people raise money. And then we can debate if you took money, what were your actions accordingly? But you blanket make statements about somebody raised money, ergo they're corrupt. I just can't buy that.
My main thing is that when you raise that kind of money, as a congressperson, I was told when I was running also that Congress people spend 70% of their time raising money for the next election. So my question is not so much where he got the money from. Why did he spend so much time raising money for a future office and not doing the job that he was elected to?
So I don't want to be distracted in going after this specific legislator because,
I'm saying in general, Maria,
I agree.
People spend like 70%.
But that goes to the system that exists. The system that exists says you need X amount of dollars. This is a very expensive country to run. I had to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars to run for an alderman's position that represented 55,000 people versus 700,000 as a congressperson.
Okay.
Or 12 million as a senator, right? So the challenge is the system of money. You want to attack
The process.
But not the person that's working within the rules of the system that exists.
And I do want to highlight.
Okay, we got 5 minutes, and let us try to wrap up our thoughts.
I do want to highlight.
Let me just chime in here. The biggest problem I think we have right now is that the unfettered amount of money that can be raised. All the Republican legislatures who are voting maybe against their even own best interest are doing so because they need to get reelected and raise money, so they don't want to cross the party line. If they put caps on the amount of funding and stuff, or had funded from the government on each campaign, then maybe the elected officials would be looking out more for their constituents as opposed to their own best interests.
So public-funded elections. That's something that we've been talking about. We got 5 minutes. I want to kind of wrap it up with Kash Patel and
that's where I was going.
So
that's where I was going.
That's
First,
important.
what I do want to say, I want to highlight Senator Durbin's leadership on speaking against Kash Patel's nomination. I mean, as a Democrat, he's been very forthright, very assertive, and says that Kash Patel is not qualified. So I think these are the process systems of strong statements that we need to see from Democrats again and again. And I believe that there's also a resolution that was introduced by Democrats that specifically spoke about the Riviera plan to change Gaza into a resort Riviera and displace people that people see as ethnic cleansing, and that's the narrative. People are identifying it as ethnic cleansing, and Durbin, Duckworth, Van Hollen, Senator Kaine introduced a resolution, said we are not just taking Gaza. That's not how it works. So,
by the way, this is really important. 100,000 Russian troops are now being trained in Belarus for what purpose? Okay. Right at the time where Europe is just freaking out, the next invasion of Poland, is that inevitable right now? What's going on with that?
Well, to the point about Gaza, if you look at, he's talked about annexing Canada, Greenland, and now Gaza. These are territories and nations. So the message being sent is that the United States will go and take what we want. So that then becomes the doctrine across the globe, and acceptable for other authoritarian governments like Russia to go into Crimea and take what they want. We're already giving that away with Hegseth making the statement that, you just got to accept that you lost the 2014 borders. This is us negotiating directly with another authoritarian government and we want to commit. And what he said about Gaza is against international law. Yeah. It's been against our doctrine. It's overtly against. We've had a doctrine of nation building and meddling in other people's business.
But we also left. We came and left, and for religious freedom and the ability to move away from this expansive empire process that the British did, And so this whole going back to this, we'll take that land, we'll take this land, we'll sign this contract. And I want to specifically state, again and again, this question was asked in the Oval Office. So what about the Palestinians that would like to stay? Oh, no, they'll be happy. They'll be great.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
trust us. We're going to be transparent about this. That's their message.
But I think what you're saying is very important, John, and we talked about this again and again, is that the reason why the words that are used are so powerful is to be able to throw it out as acceptable doctrine, So, it's normal to displace people. It's normal to take. I mean, for example, the picture that is shown in the press conference with the White House press secretary, that this is not livable. Look at this. Palestinians cannot live in this place. That is the second part of a statement. The first part of the statement is, how did it become unlivable? Yeah. Who paid for the bombs? So we're going to bomb, kill, displace, and then use the money to create a resort.
So move fast and break things.
Yes.
Right. Create instability. which is this move fast and break doctrine, then go in and say only I can fix it.
Yeah, what I would like
and then take it away from the people who are rightfully there.
I think the country is much smart. I mean, I think the country is much smarter. Look at the sentence that we're even speaking about. It makes so much.
I worry about that.
This is our point. Our point to be here is to speak to the ones that want to be educated and
what
tell people
what I
the
would like to
nuances, you know?
what I would like to see, guys, is instead of going and making Gaza into a resort, why don't we use our resources to go and fix things that happen in our country? Okay. What's happening in California? Okay. What's happening in the rest of the country where we are getting floods, we are getting fires?
Yeah, but those are natural disasters, and to say that's somehow a government-caused
No, John. I'm saying is let us use our money to fix those things.
We can walk and chew gum. This again, I worry when we get into their rhetoric of we can only worry. That's an American first.
Okay, folks, you got 15 seconds to wrap up. You got 15 seconds to wrap up. You've been listening to the Lightning Strike on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. Please go to our website, TLS Chicago, for the Lightning Strike Chicago.com. We are still continuing. We can continue this conversation for a few more minutes on Facebook if you folks want to, because this is so important that we will continue the conversation on Facebook. So if you're watching us on Facebook, we will be coming off of the air on WCPT.
The preceding program, The Lightning Strike, was sponsored by Mohammed Fahim, and to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of Heartland Signal, LLC, or its management.